Hello and welcome to CCHW, Christ Church of the Holy Word. And this is our project of bringing the New Testament chapter by chapter and verse by verse to you. And tonight we're going to cover chapter 22 of this book of Acts. In the last chapter, Paul left Asia and has now arrived in Jerusalem and met with James and the elders who tried to convince him to get out of there because they didn't feel it was safe. But the Jews from Asia are still after Paul. They followed him here. And they want to kill him. Why? Because they're Kenites. They're the sons of Cain. And they have followed him to Jerusalem, captured him now, and were beaten up on him when the Romans got the call that there was some uprising going on downtown. So the Romans went, and the chief captain of the Romans took control of things. Prior to this, James and the elders had tried to convince Paul, they had convinced Paul to take the oath of a Nazarite, along with 4 men that were beginning that ritual, in an attempt to show the old Jews of the city that he believed in the law of Moses. He was on the right path. And of course the Romans now have taken Paul, and they don't know that he's a Roman citizen. They do not know that his father was a Roman citizen. And we're gonna move into that, but he's trying to calm down the crowd, and he's about to let Paul speak and give his testimony to the people of Jerusalem. So let's go. Let's pick it up, chapter 22 of this book of Acts. Paul is beginning to speak to the crowd. Verse 1 and verse 1 reads, Paul speaking, Men, brethren, and fathers, hear ye my defense, which I make now unto you. Verse 2. Parentheses, so know that this is added for clarity. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence. And he saith, why? Because he was showing them respect, speaking to them in their native language, in the Hebrew. Paul continues, verse 3, I am verily a man which am a Jew. Again, remember I said he's of the tribe of Benjamin. He's Israelite, but not really of Judah. Born in Tarsus, a city in Sicilia. Yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel. He was raised in Jerusalem at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, the law of Moses, and was zealous towards God, as ye all are this day. So Gamaliel was one of the greatest Jewish scholars of all time, and Paul studied with him. Gamaliel was Paul's teacher. And Gamaliel was one of the greatest teachers of the old law, and everybody, of course, knew him. Verse 4, And I persecuted this way unto death. I persecuted according to the old law unto the death. I was killing them, Christians, binding and delivering into prison both men and women. It didn't make any difference if they were Christian. They were my enemy. And Paul fought against Christianity in the beginning in the name of the law of Moses, exactly what these men are accusing him of blasphemy over. Verse 5. As also the high priest doeth bear witness, me witness, because obviously the high priest was around when he was doing this, when Saul, under the name of Saul, Paul, was persecuting the Christians. So the high priest could bear witness to this. Let me begin 5 again. As also the high priest doeth bear me witness. He'll tell you I'm telling you the truth. And all the estate of the elders, from whom also I received letters unto the brethren. They all knew what I was doing to Christians. And went to Damascus. Paul was on that road to Damascus. He was headed there. He had that letter in his pocket to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem to be punished. Paul was going to Damascus to round up every Christian he could find, incarcerate them, bind them, and take them back to Jerusalem where they would be killed. Verse 6, and it came to pass that as I made my journey to Damascus, and was come nigh unto Damascus, about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. Verse 7. And I fell unto the ground, and I heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Verse 8. And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. So, God struck him down off of his horse, knocked him to the ground, and Jesus spoke to him, asking him, Paul, why are you against me? Why do you persecute me? Verse 9. And they that were with me, this is Paul continuing speaking, that band of people that were with me going into Damascus to round up all the Christians, and I'll start 9 again, and they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. Now, the men knew something was going on, and they could see this powerful light, but they couldn't hear what was being said. Now, in another place, we're told that they could hear something, but they couldn't understand. So what Paul's saying here is they just didn't, they couldn't hear, they couldn't understand what was being said. They couldn't hear what the Lord was saying. Verse 10. And I said to Jesus, this is Paul speaking to Jesus, What shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said unto me, Arise, and go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee of all things which are appointed for thee to do. Paul was blinded, and God ordered him to go into Damascus, and this man would find him. Verse 11. And when I could not see, he was blinded. for the glory of that light, being led by the hand of them that were with me, by his soldiers, this crew that he'd brought to detain all the Christians, I came into Damascus. Verse 12. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law, he lived by the law, having a good rapport of all the Jews which dwelt there. Ananias was respected by all there. Verse 13. Came unto me and stood and said unto me, Brother Saul, receive thy sight. And the same hour I looked up upon him. So Ananias, restored through God, of course, restored Paul's sight. Now, I believe that Paul never was able to see 100% again. That's why he always had a scribe. That's why Luke was with him right now, because Paul couldn't. In one place, where he obviously did do the writing himself, he says, "Notice my big letters," because he couldn't see. So I don't think he ever totally recovered his sight. Just my opinion. Verse 14, and he said, "The God of our fathers has chosen thee." This is Ananias speaking to Paul. "That thou shouldest know his will and see that just one, and shouldest hear the voice of his mouth." Should hear the voice of Messiah. Verse 15. "For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard." Paul was chosen by God. You know, I often tell you, Paul was elect because God just stepped right into the middle of his life and said, boom, you're not going to do this anymore, because Paul was of the election. And his job, Paul's job, it was to teach the Word of God, not go around and harass Christians. 16. "And now, why tarriest thou? Arise, and be baptized, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord." 17. "And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem," when I came back to Jerusalem after that, "even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance." 18. "And I saw him saying unto me, Make haste and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive thy testimony concerning me." In this trance, Jesus told Paul, the Jews in Jerusalem are not going to believe what you have to say. Get out of here. 19. "And I said, Lord, they know that I imprisoned and beaten every synagogue them that believed on thee." They know who I am. Verse 20. "And when the blood of thy martyr Stephen was shed, I was also standing by and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him." Paul held the coats of the murderers of Stephen while they stoned him, and all of Jerusalem have been witness to this. They knew who Saul was. Verse 21. "And he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles." This is God speaking to him. God sent him away from Jerusalem to the Gentiles. 22. And they gave him audience unto his words, and then lifted up their voices. Who's this? The Jews. And said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. The old school Jews, Kenites, were not receptive to Paul at all, but wanted him killed in the name, by the Romans, by the way, in the name of the old law of Moses. 23. And as they cried out and cast off their clothes and threw dust in the air, and this was a sign of their distress. 24. The chief captain commanded him, Paul, to be brought into the castle, get him into the barracks where he's going to be safe, and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he, the chief captain, might know wherefore they cried so against him. So the chief captain's still trying to figure out what in the heck is going on here. And he tells his men, beat him up a little bit, soften him up so he'd tell us what this is all about. 25. And as they, the men of the chief captain, bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion, the head guy, the head of the soldiers that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned, hasn't had a trial, hasn't been heard of by all? So once again we see Paul's playing the Roman card here, and he was Roman. Remember, his father, Roman citizen. 26. When when the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Now, I've explained this before, but very shortly, if you did this to a Roman citizen, you were in jeopardy of your own life. I mean, you beat a Roman citizen without a trial, you could be executed for it. 27. Then the chief captain came after he heard this, that Paul's claiming to be a Roman. The chief captain came and said unto him, Paul, he said unto Paul, Tell me, art thou a Roman? And he, Paul, said, Yea, I am. 28. And the chief captain answered, With a great sum, with a huge amount of money, he's saying, obtained I this freedom. So this chief captain wasn't even born a free Roman. He had to buy it, and he's saying, I paid a lot for my citizenship. And Paul said, he answered back to the chief captain, But I was born free. So, although this captain bought his citizenship, Paul's telling him straight up, I'm a born Roman freeman. 29. Then straight away they departed from him. They left Paul, which should have examined him, the men that had him in custody, and the chief captain was afraid. He was afraid after he knew that Paul was a Roman, and because he had bound him, because he was in charge, he knew that what they had done to this Roman citizen could cost him his life. He was afraid. 30. on the morrow, the next day, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear. He brought all the chief priests and all these Jews that were messing with Paul, brought them all together in front of the council, and brought Paul down and set him before them. So, the chief captain is still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Why are they so intent on killing Paul? He wants to know why these Jews want to kill Paul. And he's going to bring them together and try to get to the bottom of this whole thing. Friends, don't miss the next lecture. We're going to see Paul's address to his enemies, and we will see how different the Sadducees were from the Pharisees. Till then, beloved, God bless you. God bless your family. I encourage you, get involved in the sealing of God's truth in his children's minds. Be a part of it, beloved. If you know the truth of God, if you know his word, if you know that Jesus is returning to this final generation of the parable of the fig tree, and that the false Christ comes first, comes to earth claiming to be the Messiah before the real Jesus Christ actually returns to us, friends, you need to help spread the truth. It's our job. One of the easiest ways, I've been telling you this for a while, one of the easiest ways for you to spread the Word of God, for you to share in his teaching, for you to share in all of the blessings that come to those that teach his word, is to share our videos, share our teachings. And friends, you're going to share in our blessings. God blesses those who do his work. And if you share his teachings, you share in our blessings because you're sharing in his work. Friends, above all, don't be deceived. Our time is right now.